thief like stickers everywhere on the pavements. That's how they're trying to tackle this.
I've seen it. What we need to do, I tell you what we need to do as
Mm.
well. We need to actually start baiting the thieves with fake phones.
That's what I've
I'm
seen videos of people doing in like Paris and Barcelona.
very good TikTok, but I think that's a
Yeah.
community response because we've got to penalize it some way because it's obvious that the police can't do it or they're not able to find the bike thieves or whatever.
Yeah.
And we have to live like this. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting times we live in.
yeah. By the way, folks, Christine had her phone stolen in Shoreditch 2 days ago.
Broad daylight. So
Happens.
you hear about
Happens.
it. You hear about it. You just didn't think it would happen to you. Literally just minding my business after yoga as well, on the phone with someone, and he just grabbed it off my hands. I'm like, oh,
And let
uh,
me say this, Christine's a London pro. She's not a rookie here. Yeah,
10
she
years,
knows what she's
13,
doing.
no, 13 years now. So I was like, this is mad. But what's interesting, I went to get my SIM card yesterday, and Oxford Circus at the Three store, and they lock their doors now. So I was like, why? Like, I had to
Oh,
like, knock and be like, can I come in and get my new SIM card? And I'm like, why are you locking your doors? Apparently, they get like armed robberies, like literally whole heists, people just coming in droves to steal phones from phone stores just off the high street. I'm like, what? What's happening?
decline of society, folks. It really is.
Mm.
We could be in better shape. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get on with the show. Welcome everybody to Brainfood Live on Air, bringing it to you every Friday, no fail. Today we've got a super exciting show. It is an exciting show for two reasons. Number one, recruitment operations. This is a function that's been around for a little while, but it's still a narrow niche function. A lot of TA sort of teams do not have this as a separate unit. But the question is it now the most relevant unit now that we have artificial intelligence dominating sort of the discourse in recruitment? Is this the function that is actually key to unlocking AI adoption in TA? That's the topic of today's conversation, folks. So I'm delighted to have you with us for this. Okay, let's do some sound checks real quick before we go any further. Folks, if you're watching this on Crowdcast, let me know whether you can hear and see myself and Christine okay. Let me know in the comments there. If you're watching this on any of the LinkedIns, I can see myself on LinkedIn. I think a few of the people are also broadcasting this live as well. If you can watch in any of those LinkedIns, do let me know whether the audio and visual is fine. Just drop me a comment to say, yes, hon, get on with the show. Okay, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Tess. Looks like we're all go. Thank you, Sita. All right, let's get on with it. We have to thank our sponsors, of course. Without our sponsors, we cannot do Brainfood Live. Brainfood Live is sponsored every single week, folks. These are recruitment technology companies that say, you know what, very important that this conversation keeps happening week on week. And this week's sponsor are one of our new favorites, first time sponsored this year, but they've been repeat
Ooh.
sponsors for us as well. And one of our much loved ATS as well is Team Taylor. So
Mm.
wonderful to have Team Taylor with us. Let's bring on actually our favorite from favorites. This is Richard, Richard Andrews. I think you met Richard, didn't you, last time? Christine, did you?
Yeah, I think so.
You
Possibly.
in
Oh,
that show?
I recognize his face. I'm a.
Yeah. But he's gonna come on and tell us all about how
Yes.
wonderful Team Taylor is. There he is, Rich. How you doing, mate?
Oh, happy Friday.
I'm doing very well, thank you. And you're right, you may recognize my face just with ever
Yeah.
so slightly but yeah, I have been before.
Good stuff. And Rich, part of the reason why you're so good at this is because you're always coming on with a massive beaming smile in your face as well. This is the sort of recruitment tech sales we want to see. Smile in your face, mate, before you do anything. But Rich, great to see you. Tell us about Team Taylor. What are you guys? What makes you different? Who should care about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, first of all, thank you so much, everyone, for having me. I did tune into the phone conversation beforehand just to say it is an absolute nightmare. We've just had family from abroad come over for a week, and we had to warn them. We were like, "Do not get your phones out walking through central London." So many things to photograph, but please don't. But I digress ever so slightly. But yeah, like I said, fantastic to be here. So, just as a quick introduction to anyone that hasn't seen me before. My name is Rich. I'm part of the UK team at Team Taylor. We're very, very thrilled to sponsor today's episode, by the way. So thank you so much for having us back home. To give you an idea of, I suppose, who we are, why we're different, Team Taylor was kind of built on the principle of making recruitment fun for users and kind of trying to revolutionize the way the company is actually attract and hire their talent rather than just kind of producing another ATS in a fairly saturated market. Now we're in 2025, we're kind of starting to see that vision really, really come to life. We've had a massive hiring push in the last couple of years or so. Team Teller is now being used to successfully hire more than 845,000 people globally, which is a staggering number every single time I come across it. It's used by 185,000 recruiters and it's trusted by more than 11,000 companies. And I think that has nearly jumped up to the 12,000 mark now, but I would need to confirm that. We've achieved this by really trying to kind of keep that dream alive throughout our development to try and create an industry leading, kind of employer branding and also, AI and automation functionalities, combined with a powerful, intuitive to use, kind of easily adopted, simple to use ATS, which can just be used by anyone, from TA directors right through to standard members of the recruitment team. Basically, to sum us up, we're an all-in-one ATS. We're all about helping you create kind of career sites that convert, efficient recruitment workflows that are powered with AI and automations, and an incredible candidate experience. Something which we really push for. Just to name kind of a few brands which tend to use us, we've got Oatly, we've got Now, for example, a huge, great big one, Food Asylum, Five Guys, a bunch of other, massive names that trust us to deliver that kind of great candidate experience, and also, most importantly, allows the recruitment team and the hiring managers to actually maximize the results from the time that they're putting in. If you don't mind, Hung, I promise I won't ramble on for too long. It's just this is always something that sticks in my mind. It seems particularly relevant to this episode as well. One of the big customers that I mentioned there was Food Asylum. They're actually one of our clients. They've got 65 stores, 2,500 employees kind of globally. We were speaking to the head of recruitment there, a guy called David Nottage, and he came to us because basically they were struggling to attract the right quality of candidates. And ultimately, due to the limitations of the tools that they were using at the time, the candidates were, kind of having a bit of a poor experience, very limited feedback on their applications and the interview process. And in brief, it's just not really where they wanted to be with their candidate experience. In fact, David actually quotes, I think I've got written here somewhere, I wanted something where I could go into the career site, make changes fast, respond to trends, and make it feel like us. That's a word we're hearing quite a lot, make it feel like us. And that is exactly what they did. And basically, by implementing Team Teller, they managed to save £130,000 in agency costs. They reduced their time to hire down to 14 days. And of 30% of the rejected candidates, they actually came back and reapplied through the Connect functionality, which is the talent pool functionality. And there's a few different functions that kind of make us different. We're mobile first. We've got a very comprehensive kind of analytics tool that we use. But like I said, the big thing for us is very much along the side of employer branding. We put the candidate experience very much first. We've developed a very advanced AI out there on the market. And again, anyone who does want to speak to me, I think Hung, you just posted my LinkedIn in there as well. I'm also going to stay on the call for the rest of the time. Really interested to see this episode. So please do reach out. We'd love to chat and to talk to me. So please do drop me over a message. Other than that, thanks again to Hung, the entire Brainfood Live community. We're really looking forward to this conversation. Well, I think you're muted, Hung.
Yeah, I think you're muted, Hung. Can't hear you.
Don't worry,
very passionate, though.
I was just giving Richard a bit of a slating, but no, I just said, listen, look at the smile he's got on his face.
Yeah.
Connect with Richard. He's going to make your day better in recruiting. So LinkedIn shared in the chat stream there. Okay, Rich, great to see you, mate. Look forward to your comments in the rest of the chat. And thanks again to Team Taylor, teamtaylor.com if you're looking to upgrade your ATS. Okay, cool.
Thank you very much.
They're definitely doing something right. My ops assistant's always asking me when we're demoing Team Taylor. It's like, we will when we're ready to go. So,
wow, that's interesting. It's interesting when you got other people talking about that, recommending in. So, that's good stuff. Yeah. Okay, real quick, Christine, because we know we've got a deadline. So give us a few tips, sort of a few things from last week, a newsletter that you want to just quickly say, yeah, that was interesting. We'll share a few links with the crowd and stuff.
Yeah. So this summer, I've spent a bit of time remote working in Lisbon. So, I'm actually quite fascinated about like the Lisbon tech community and remote working community. Pedro says hi, by the way. So I really like the relocation friendly tech jobs report, where I think Andrew Stutsenko, analyzed 1,500 tech jobs offering relocation support, and just in general what the market looks like now, right? So it was interesting to see Germany was leading in terms of if you work in software engineering, that's a place you should be. Working in fintech is actually, despite all the whole AI boom at the moment, fintech is still going to be the key industry that's hiring the most and actually paying well if you're working within that space. And what was interesting to me as well is actually looking at the different types of categories of visas, because I manage immigration here at Quantum Motion here in the UK. We're opening offices in Spain soon and in the US. So I'm really interested in like internal global mobility initiatives. And it's not easy now, especially here in the UK. And what I found out what was interesting is you can actually get visas without actually having a job in certain countries. I think I want to say Sweden is one of them, and two more places on top of my Germany and Austria as well. So you can get job seeker visas without even securing a role. So that's a game changer for a lot of people who maybe want to, relocate somewhere else, i.e. me losing my phone. Do I really want to be living in London and watching my back all the time? I want to consider somewhere safer. I think a lot of people are probably going through that type of career, like change. Well, not just career change, but where do you want to be based? And from there, you then start looking at where are the job opportunities. So yeah, that was a great report, Andrew. So thank you.
Yeah, and firstly, we love Andrew Stesenko. Do follow him as well. I'll share his link into the LinkedIn. But it's also an example of what can be achieved with basically like a pretty low-fi sort of research effort.
Yeah.
One guy, he's got a couple of people in his team, but basically just looked at 1,500 job posts and said, okay, are these companies actually offering relocation? In other words, relocation support. This is sort of relocation fee, it's kind of sponsored visa, etc. And then just isolating those. Doesn't surprise me. Germany was still number one because that's probably a legacy of them just having a decade-long approach in absorbing tech talent. But yeah, I mean the high point of relocation unfortunately is behind us. I think it was we were talking pre-COVID really when that was when we had the war for talent, genuine war for talent, but world's changed by in a great deal now.
Yeah, I'm hearing lots of rumors. I say rumors, but there's a big like talent, I suppose, brain drain, they're saying, in certain industries, for example, and banking from London going to Dubai, vice versa. A lot of talent from US wanting to move over to the UK. So it's just interesting to see like where the dynamics, because of geopolitical reasons, and how talent is kind of shifting based on the industries they're working in as well.
Indeed so. Okay, give us one more, Christine, before we get into this.
Yeah, I mean, I could go deeper into the Microsoft paper, which I won't because I might as well. We're gonna be talking all about the application of AI and RecOps today. So I'm gonna go the fun route. I really love the guy who's like a software engineer and he's now like working at McDonald's.
Yeah, it's great.
So he's context here. I only watched the one that you posted and I started actually going knee deep in a few others. So I really enjoyed so context, he's a software engineer. I think he's like just earned enough money where he doesn't need to work anymore. So he's just going around and at the moment he's working at McDonald's. And the video you posted was him on a shift doing hash browns and fries. But I saw another one where it was like his first day onboarding. So he spent 2 hours just learning about like orientation and learning about anti-slavery training, etc. And what I was surprised about was his kit. Like he thought he was gonna be kitted out with all the golden arches, but it was like a really minimal black apron and hat. And he was like, "Hang on a minute, this is not what I thought McDonald's was gonna give me." So that was interesting from an employee perspective. Like day one, you're the most excited about the role, you want to get engaged, and the fact that that's what he was kind of recording, and that was the opposite of what he expected. I wonder if that translated to his excitement into the role. But fascinating experience because he's bringing his, I suppose, engineering mindset into the kitchen as well. So definitely a must watch for those for Friday fun.
Do you know what? I really, as soon as I saw what he's doing, I was captured by it. And one thing that's very true for me is that I think he's also doing it very respectfully as well.
Yeah.
He's not like a middle class person taking the piss out of working class work. No, he's genuinely interested in how it works. He's applying here's why that process flows like this. And he's learning on the job and he's learning how to do it. And I think it's fascinating to see that experiment. Let's see where he goes with it. It's great content. And it's educational on things that are relevant to us: the recruitment, the onboarding, the training, the culture. Really good.
Side note as well, my dad told me this, but remember Thaksin Shinawatra? He was the prime minister of Thailand. So
Yes.
of course, very wealthy family, but he would send all his kids to work at McDonald's for 1 year during the university degree, just so, according to him, to get a bit of real life experience. But I fully believe it's great to work in
Yeah.
the background to see how it all comes together. So yeah, smart move on his part.
Yeah, I really help us connect with society anyway, because
Yeah,
we've gone down the university route completely, let's say,
yeah.
isolated from sort of the service economy.
Mm,
And I think, a great deal of the society problems that we're probably seeing is as a result of that dislocation between different social economic
mm,
groups.
mhm.
All right, cool. Let's bring on our guests. Before we do that, though, let's bring you on here, sort of with your thoughts on the topic, Christine. RecOps, do you have any experience with sort of this type of function? If so, what is that experience? How do you think it impacts sort of the adoption of AI? And if not, what's your speculation on its impact?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm keen to learning. I'm learning today. We're a much smaller team. Operations is obviously very much embedded in our day to day. We try a lot of different type of technologies to see what sticks and what doesn't. I think the key things we find that works for us is, of course, anything to do with like assistance, right? What we do, there's so much like internal communications piece, but when it comes to actually systems based approaches, so looking at, let's say, recruitment, maybe time to hire, is the blockers, the way we're responding to candidates, are there different mechanics we could use within our ATS to help us support on that. So in a way, it's kind of quite granular. We haven't looked at it in a more holistic way just yet, because we're A, not big enough, and B, not most of our teams are using not using our systems just yet. But I think internally we'd love to see like what works for other companies. And I think it really depends on the size and shape of each company, and actually it's also the adoption internally. Like you could actually roll out a new very cool technology, but are your internal stakeholders even using it? I'm keen to see what we're hearing from our panelists today.
Is there a great part of what RecOps is about is
Yeah.
utility of the tools that you've purchased. So absolutely right. And
Mm.
wonderful to see our panelists here as well. Let's introduce them all real quick. Mark, you're first on street, so let's introduce you. Who are you? What is you do, Mark?
Yeah, hey, nice to be on. Thanks for having me. So my name's Mark. I work at Wise, formerly TransferWise. Been there 6.5 years now. There wasn't a RecOps function when I joined. There is now, and I lead that globally.
Fantastic. And quick shout out to Mark. He's actually on paternity leave, a father
Ooh,
for the second time, I believe.
congratulations.
But taking half an hour to speak to us here as well. So massive appreciation on that, Mark. And I know we've had a chit chat beforehand on how you're enjoying the second child. So good luck with all of that, and fantastic news on the family, mate.
It's anything to get away from nappies and bottles for half hour. That's what it is.
Fair play, mate. Fair play. We have Victoria Murphy here as well. Victoria, great to see you. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yes, thank you very much. Victoria Murphy, my team and I at JLL, we work across the talent landscape within TA Ops, so tech enablement, talent intelligence, and offer to onboard. So, and of course, all with a focus on AI. So really pleased to be here today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Great to see you, Victoria. Look forward to learning from you here. And we have Steve Colopy is here as well. Steve, wonderful to see you. I think your kind of early commentary on one of my LinkedIn posts actually stimulated this event in the first place. So thanks to you on that. Who are you? What it is you do, sir?
Thank you very much for having me on. Steve Colopy, I work at Delivery Hero, part of Delivery Hero's 15 brands. I work for 3 of them. So we have a central TA ops function, and then like the TA ops function that I'm a part of in the 3 brands. But yeah, talent operations, enablement, tech enablement, systems. It also, for me personally, RecOps also includes employer branding and talent coordination as well.
Cool. Let's set the scene on terms of RecOps, just for the people who might not be familiar with the term or function. What is it in a nutshell? How does it interface with a recruiter? For instance, there's a TA team, isn't there? So what is RecOps in relation to that? Anybody want to kick us off with this?
I'll give it a go. I think for me, it's about enablement. So it's a service function. How do we help recruiters be more efficient? How do we deliver a better candidate experience, hiring manager experience? And how do we keep people safe, especially, if we're talking Europe or anywhere really, like with data privacy and all of these kinds of things, we need to ensure that we're doing things the right way, storing information the right way, that we have clean processes that help people be successful.
Really good. I love the term. I had to catch myself twice there. Keep people safe. Folks, there's a lot of recruiters out there that are doing unsafe activity. I can tell you that for a fact. Literally downloading anything, using anything. It's like, you know what? Not only are you potentially in breach of some sort of legal scenario, out of compliance with what's happening in terms of how you're meant to play with data, but you might be putting your company at risk and your own sort of personal security at risk by using a lot of technologies that isn't actually, you haven't done the DD on and the proper infosec type of scrutiny. Mark, your views on recruitment ops. No one starts off in recruitment ops or talent ops, right? So, what is it to you? How does it interact with TA?
Yeah, I think the way that we sort of describe it is it's the recruiting engine, right? So it's everything that sits behind the recruiting. So I always say we do everything in recruitment that's not recruiting. So all of the tools, the tech, the process, the data and the analytics, the candidate experience side of things, privacy, all of that. So and my journey, I was in led recruitment teams, and I always kind of had more of a leaning towards process, structure, data. And the role was created a few years back, and kind of stepped into it from a recruitment lead role.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Before I go to Victoria on this, it was created. Why was it created? Like, what stimulates the emergence of a TA ops function?
I think just needing to get a little bit smarter about how we operate and being a bit more efficient than we were. I think what you tend to find is when you've got a big team of recruitment, and at the time we probably had around 70, 80 in the team, it got to a point where everyone's so focused on the day-to-day and hiring and getting people in through the door, there wasn't anyone to kind of take a step back and look at the process holistically and kind of make suggestions and improvements, whereas this role is designed to do that.
Yeah, and absolutely, and it's separated from headcount sort of objectives, isn't it? You can't have a RecOps person that also needs to hire 5 people a month and stuff like that. That's got to be separate because they need to have that clean view. Okay, fantastic. Let's go to you, Victoria. How would you describe the relationship between TA and TA Ops or RecOps?
Yeah, great. And Steve and Mark, some really good insights there. And I think that enabler is absolutely on my list of things. And we are not enforcers. Let's just also be very clear on that. We work as one team, and it is about relationships. It's 100% about relationships. It is not a them and us. It's all about that we have shared successes, and that's incredibly important. A successful TA operations team are joined at the hip. Yes, whilst we might have slightly variable reporting lines because of technology and process and systems, when it comes to day-to-day activities, we operate as one team. So, why would somebody have, and why would this function, I suppose, emerge? Look, guys, you need it when you're managing high volume hiring, or maybe when it's working across multiple locations or business units. And certainly it's about elevating the recruitment function so that the recruiters can carry on doing what they're good at, which is people facing, talking to candidates, talking to hiring managers, and not being stuck behind a computer. I'm going to show my age here, young, but in my day when I started out as a recruiter, the successful recruiters had very little leather on the bottom of their shoe and had the highest phone bill. And we've sort of come a long way where, sadly, because we're so driven through using HR systems, we've pushed our recruiters into using computers and being stuck behind a monitor. TA Ops, we have got to enable recruiters to get back out there and just be on the floor with the business.
Yeah, really, really good. Let's bring the AI sort of topic right into this because RecOps obviously kicked off pre-artificial intelligence, say, if we can say the launch of ChatGPT is the beginning of the mainstream of it. But we are starting to see sort of this concern that TA is slow in adopting artificial intelligence. Why are we not using it more effectively? Why are we still generally just using it for, message composition or, information compression when there's so much more can be achieved with it? It struck me that actually maybe RecOps has a very important role to play with this in making sure that actually we can make these bigger step change shifts in how things work, because recruiters that have headcount targets are going to be too busy dealing with that headcount to be able to step back and start thinking about how it could be done better. So, Mark, let's go to you first. How has AI, how has the tech, sort of the TA RecOps function helped Wise implement artificial intelligence in the business, and what's the impact of that?
Yeah, and I think to your point about TA being slow to adopt, I think some of that comes from the fact that consumer AI and the pace that's growing is outstripping sort of more enterprise AI. Right, so the systems that we use are always slower to catch up based on what a candidate can use to apply. And I think the other thing that comes in, as you've already said, is not every TA team has an operations function. And if you don't have an operations function that are there to look at process improvement, efficiency, then as a recruiter, you get stuck in the day to day and you're not quick to adopt it because what you're doing is working. You're not necessarily looking at what could be even better or how I could do this more efficiently. You're thinking I need to get X many heads through the door.
Yeah, absolutely right. So AI acceleration in Wise, Mark, like how is that how is the RecOps function help with that?
Yeah, we're getting there. There's bits that we're doing. I think what the way that we work, we have an enablement function within our operations team. We go out to their recruiters and find out what their major pain points are, and we look at how we can solve those. Some of that's through automation, some of it's through AI, some of it's through new tools and new tech. So some of the AI that we've got working at the moment is around interview scheduling in particular. So we've moved to a place where you move a candidate into recruiter screen stage. They automatically get the invite. They select the time. It automatically sets everything up, and it's just done. So our time to schedule interviews has gone from sort of 7 days ish, there or thereabouts, all the way down to about 90 minutes as a median now.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And prior to that, you had a coordination team, didn't you, Mark?
We did, yeah. So the coordination team, what would happen, recruiter would need to schedule an interview. They would submit a ticket to the coordination team. That would go into a queue. The coordination team would get round to it. There'd always be questions. There's a back and forth. Then it gets arranged. Whereas now the recruiter clicks a few buttons. What they would have put on the request form before, they put into a extension on Chrome and click done. So it's much quicker now than it ever used to be.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's the sort of compression of work that we need to start doing in order to demonstrate that we're an efficient function. So, Steve, you were nodding your head, and Victoria, you as well. But let's go to Steve first. How has RecOps had an impact at Delivery Hero in terms of improving efficiency, particularly when it comes to implementation of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so it's a multifaceted answer, I think. But I think overall, how have they contributed? It's standardization. For us specifically, our business model, we're multiple markets around the world, we're multiple brands all under one umbrella. When you talk about like efficiency and you talk about all of those kinds of things, we need to be on the same page using the tools the same way. Otherwise, we just lose data clarity. And I think for us, similar to Mark, one of the biggest areas that we've seen time saved is scheduling and coordination. So we do it a little bit half and half. So we have auto self-schedule through our tool. So our recruiters can do that for themselves for their initial TA screens and hiring manager screens. But for me personally, and this is a personal thing, not necessarily shared by Delivery Hero, I don't know, but TA is still a people function. So when you ask the question, why is AI slower maybe to build into recruiting? I think it's a people function. We need that people element. AI is not going to replace, but it is absolutely going to enhance. So if we can enhance speed and we can enhance our ability to cut through data, prioritize profiles, if we're using it for sourcing, for example, using keywords like a lot of LinkedIn or a lot of the ATSs now, you can use AI to pass your CVs or your applications based on your jobs. And we do that, and it helps us just prioritize the most matched candidates to the most efficient jobs. So it doesn't really answer the whole question, but I think those are two of the key ways. And I think for me personally, I use AI a lot when I'm looking at data. Just being able to ask it normal questions, not think about how a computer would ask the question or know a particular formula, but just being able to say, like, how many people came from Prague? That helps a lot when you're trying to build out reports with very specific questions, especially from our C-level or our senior managers. Being able to turn that around much quicker than building pivot tables and all of that kind of stuff helps.
Yeah, really good. Victoria, go to you on this. How does the work come to the tech ops team at JLL? Like, everyone's got a list of things, list of projects. So how do you know, like, what is the list of projects that you need to do? Is it like Mark's, you got to go and interview people, or is there like some dashboard where you can see, oh crap, we're really weak as a function on this area. We need to actually apply our RecOps team here to try and like unblock that, so whatever it is.
Wow. And hang on, I don't know if you know then how we operate. So what we have is we actually have what's called a TOPS function, which is tech, ops, and process. And we meet on a weekly basis. And all of those ideas and all those requests come through that team. And we have to prioritize based on so many different things: resource, availability of resource, the ability to do the things. But absolutely, in the last 2 or 3 years, that TOPS call that we have every Thursday has been very heavily driven by AI. And we split it into 3 areas, or we have done. So that TOPS call is all about the enterprise system enhancement. So our HR systems, any of our AI tools that we've brought in to integrate with our HR systems. We've then also got what we've got strategic process automation. We're really lucky in JL because we've got scale. So we have volume. And so we partner with our automation team in the business to identify those opportunities where we can eliminate manual work. And the last one, and this came up probably about 18 months ago, is our in-house ChatGPT. So we have actively integrated JLL ChatGPT into our recruiters' daily workflow. We even have a dashboard showing who's in there and who isn't in there. The dashboard does not tell us how good or how effective they're being at using ChatGPT, because that pushes the boundaries a bit. But this enables them to help with job descriptions, go-to-market advertising strategies, and really encouraging them to be in it every day as part of their tool. I think that we talk about, has TA been slow to get on the journey? The challenge we face, and we are overcoming it, and we will do, is we sort of need to be a little bit more patient. AI is unlike when we moved from faxes to emails. AI is such a personal thing. It's a little bit like a religion, where we have to respect how people are feeling about it in their day-to-day work and the journey we're on. Now, I'm a huge tech person and I love it and I'm a big believer. But I think what me and my team have learned is to respect the fact that everybody has also their own personal opinion. So how do we help understand why people don't want it, to then start encouraging them to find ways to enable them to use it? Patience, we will get there, and you'll all find your own little ways of doing it. And I really encourage just practice and doing different things. But yeah, enterprise system, process automation, and ChatGPT is what we're doing in JLL.
Yeah, fantastic. I guess open question to the panel. Who measures the effectiveness of a RecOps team? Is it something within TA that people look at, or is it, let's say, wider in the business? They look at TA and think, you know what, are you getting better? Like how do we measure the performance of recruitment operations function?
Shall I start that? So we do it in joint partnership with our TA leaders. And so there are certain things, really, if we start to see how successful the recruiters are being in their role, so how they are improving things like the time to fill, the candidate surveys, the hiring manager surveys, their KPIs are our KPIs. So if we're not improving the delivery to the business, then we're not actually being successful as an operations function either. So I think for us, it was important that we didn't have their KPIs and our KPIs. Which, as I said at the beginning, we work as one team. Of course, we have back-end things where we are looking at, how quick were we now to get a contract out, or how quick were we to have somebody join on day one. So we are measured against those tactical things. But actually what we're really pushing for is we all own our KPIs. And the sooner we get people employed and hired into the organization, then that can help our bottom line.
That's
I would
incredible.
agree with you. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like very collaborative, and I'm keen to also hear like your own targets as well. Like, is it also tied to your team's KPIs? Like, what does success look like for your role?
Yeah, very much so. It's a mix of the recruiter KPIs that we need to make an impact on, and also what transformation has TA Ops actually driven and implemented? What ideas have we brought to the table and said, hey, we've seen this problem, let's go and fix it? So it's a mix of both, Christine, as we go through it. And you know what? We're evolving and we're learning, and we certainly won't stay stagnant on that either.
What might be the challenges that you might typically encounter when you're trying to accelerate AI adoption with the TA team? Again, I make this open to everyone in the call here and everyone who's listening in. Like, I can imagine that sort of RecOps becomes like the de facto evangelist for AI adoption in a way, because you're there to, it's going to make you go faster. Yeah, absolutely. But what are the common sort of explicit objections and what are the implicit sort of behaviors that you think, yeah, there's a soft resistance here or there's an unspoken resistance for whatever reason it is. So what are those things and what's your theory as to why that happens?
I chuckled earlier on when Victoria said we're not enforcers, because sometimes it feels a bit like we are. Because one of the big barriers that we come up against is the inconsistency in process, because every individual hiring manager wants their own slight variation on what we do. And when it comes down to using automation and AI, you can't have that degree of variation because there needs to be some logic to which that kind of automation applies. So that's one of the big things that we've come up against. And the way we've kind of tackled that is to show the potential improvements. And as soon as a couple of people do and see the improvements, all of a sudden it starts to roll out, right? And this is the interview scheduling. As a really good example, we trialed it with 2 people that only hire for the UK first. Then we trialed it with a group of 10 that hire across Europe in different roles. And then we went global afterwards. And at each stage of that, we learned something new. We tweaked how we did it slightly. And by the time we rolled it out globally, it was done. It rolled out really successful. So I think starting small and trying to get a group of people that are enthusiastic and engaged in trying to make this change, and then rolling it out a little bit wider. If you're trying to implement AI at scale across a whole TA team globally, you're going to really struggle.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think the other thing that we've got in parallel to what Mark was saying is we've got this sort of legislation piece sitting on our shoulders. So we've got a dual piece here. We know that things are going to constantly evolve and change, and therefore our tech partners are going, well, hold on a minute, we're going to have to keep changing. And then we've got these poor recruiters who are going, what, you've changed the process again? So, whilst people are saying, why aren't we moving faster? We've got a lot going on out there. We've got the change management piece and we've got the legislation. So can you imagine if we spend all this time, money and energy implementing a new process only to find that legislation now says you can't do that and you must stop? So there's a real balance of managing risk as we look at everything that we start rolling out. It's not that we don't want to, it's not that it won't work, but we are also looking ahead because of the legislation. But in the meantime, it's about understanding our recruiters and helping them one by one.
It's fascinating because I feel like on this role level, you're technically like a product manager, but for the recruiting teams, right? Like you're looking at what the challenges are, you're finding, whether it's going to land with the teams, testing it out, like you're mentioning, Mark, and small teams and rolling it out. What I'm curious to know, like you mentioned the example with the interview scheduling. So it's like a build versus buy scenario, because I'd imagine you already have a tech stack in place with your ATS or HRS, and then you figure out, right, this is one thing that's causing a friction or bottleneck in the pipeline. Do you kind of work with your current systems, or do you then go to shop for new suppliers? Like, what's your typical process at that point from the panel as well?
Yeah, both. We'll look at what we've got and how that works, and if there's a gap, then we'll look externally to see what other tools we can bring in to kind of supplement what we've got internally. And we actually have this with interview scheduling. So we're with Smart Recruiters as our ATS. Some of the scheduling is done on Smart Recruiters. Some of it's done via Chronify, via an API, because Chronify can handle stuff that Smart Recruiters can't, and vice versa. Doing it in the ATS gives us a bit more customization. Doing it externally gives us access to tooling that Smart Recruiters doesn't have. So we would be open, and we are open to both.
How do you make that decision, Stephen? When you've got the build by bot type option, obviously every vendor is saying, you know what, give us 2 weeks, this is coming at you. And then you're thinking, hang on, do I trust that message, or do I then buy this thing? And this company saying wants to lock me in for 12 months. How do you make that juggling decision. And is it your decision alone as RecOps, or is procurement involved somehow, or does it ultimately come down to the operator, the TA function that makes that call, and RecOps is the recommendation function? How does it work in Delivery Hero?
I was about to say, I think it depends a little bit on the size of company that you're in. For us, it would definitely be a multi-department decision. So we would have procurement, we would have legal, we would have, we've got to make sure we meet compliance as well. And that's both compliance to keep the company safe, but also, enhance candidate experience as much as we can. So from that perspective, how do we make the decision? I think it depends on need. A lot of times you think it would be great if we could just do this thing, and maybe just do this thing is how do we deal with application volume? And I think most people would agree that that is a challenge, especially in today's world. Applications seem to be going through the roof, but do we already have tools that we can use to do that we just don't use? Or do we need to buy this new off-the-shelf package that promises the world, but at the end of the day is still going to just basically plug into our system and then give us another level of complexity in reporting, in daily use? So I think it's a full trade-off, and that full trade-off needs to be with recruiters. Absolutely, that's a collaboration. We can't just do it for them. But also understanding from compliance, from just a cost perspective, if we roll this out, where do we roll it out? And are all areas equal? Because our compliance statutes in Germany versus compliance statutes in the Philippines or Singapore are quite different. So if we roll out one system, then do we bifurcate by location and region, or do we just say this is a blanket tool that everyone can use? And then how do we educate people on how to use it most efficiently and most effectively? So that change management piece that Victoria was talking about is a huge piece as well.
How do you make sure and by the way, I need to underline and underscore the comment. I forget who it was that made it, that the need for standardization is critical for effective automation. So in effect, if there is a team of people, there's going to be one process that works best with the technology that we're going to implement. Bunch of people are going to have to change the way in which they're working, because otherwise they're outside of that system of automation. They're not going to get the benefit of the efficiency, but they're also creating like a data trail with their own efforts that then might confuse the system and then damage it for everyone else. So I can totally understand that this is a little bit enforcement. This is a little bit, which way you do it, you've got to get everyone on board. And I guess there might even come to a point where if there literally are recalcitrants that won't sort of change, you might need to start thinking about, look, can we carry them to the next phase with where we're going, because they're not on board with system. And that's just normal sort of team management, team playing, isn't it? So possibly we've got to be tough doing the job, and not just be a pure play support function. Okay, cool. There's lots more to talk about, but I'll just keep an eye on the time. I can see we've only got 15-20 minutes left to go before I go off air. Folks, Brainfood Live, very important that we do not become a bottleneck for future conversations on this topic. Obviously, there's going to be much more to talk about when it comes to the role of RecOps and the implementation of AI in TA. Let's make sure that conversation continues. Best way we can do that is to make sure we're super connected with everyone else who's watching this show right now. So grab your LinkedIn URL, share it in the chat stream. If you're watching this on Crowdcast, if you're watching this on any of the LinkedIn streams, put your LinkedIn URL in the comment thread and just connect with everyone else who's done the same. Got hundreds of people watching this. Worst case scenario is that you're going to leave this conversation with 20, 30, 40 new connections that care about this topic. And guess what? They're probably going to be happy about talking about RecOps and AI offline, wherever you want to take it. So go ahead and do that. Okay, who does the RecOps job, guys? Is it... I don't know. I mean, is it always someone from recruitment? And if so, like, what kinds of people do this? Is it the more technically adroit? Is it someone who's the superstar sort of recruiter? Is it someone that was never the superstar recruiter and actually has a different way to think about it? Like, how do you see the career pathing into the recruitment ops function? I mean, even citing your own example, I guess. But Steve, let's go to you first on that.
I have a strong opinion that to be in RecOps, you need to have done something in TA to fully appreciate the complexity. It's not just hiring people, right? There's so much that goes into it. And unless you've worked in a TA function, it's very difficult to learn that on the job unless you have a long runway for time. So I believe that it should be within a TA function. It doesn't necessarily have to be a recruiter, but talent coordination or talent analyst or whatever that is. How to, I think you don't have to be a superstar, but I think you have to be process driven. I think you have to understand the value of process. And more than that, you need to be able to capitalize on the data that you get from processes being followed. Because we all want to live in this data-driven, data-led society and how we do things and how we prove things and quantify our roles. We have to understand the data. So if you don't understand recruiting data, what processes are you changing? Why are you changing them? You need to be led by something. So you need to have a strong idea of what data you're looking at and what you can do with it to benefit, right? So we talk about effecting change. So your ability as well then to build relationships. I think Mark and Victoria both mentioned this. Building relationships, talking to stakeholders. Change management is a huge part of what we do because we're trying to convince people that the way they do things may or may not be the best way to do it. And we have to do that diplomatically so that we don't upset people, but at the same time, strong enough that we affect the change that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, really good. Thoughts on that, Victoria? Like, how
Yeah.
how do people get into this function, and what kind of qualities make sense?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I think coming from a TA background really helps you. And the reason being is that when you're in RecOps, you sort of have this ability to see through brick walls because you can see ahead. You can understanding that downstream impact. If you've not lived in the life cycle of TA, then it's harder for you to do that. And I'm not saying that if you've never been in recruitment, don't come and join us. And I think that's very unfair of us to ever say that. It helps considerably. You've really got to be somebody who, you don't even need to have been an amazing recruiter. I probably wasn't an amazing recruiter because actually I was I wanted it to be too perfect, and that immediately. So I know what makes a great recruiter, but actually the operational side is where is my forte. And I think it's about people who understand what impact it makes, not they make, but the process makes. I think it's understanding the commercial impact. I think when you come into the operational side, we can be very quick to say yes because somebody's asked for a change in the system. We've stopped doing that now because actually what we have to do is say, how does it make an impact? And so when you come in to TA Ops, and you come from a TA background, you're going to feel that. You're going to know what it's like to be a candidate or a hiring manager. So yeah, curiosity, understanding the downstream impact, and commercially aware of the impact that we can make really helps us getting into TA. But I do think it's two different brains, and I respect that, and that's why we work sometimes so well together.
No, really, really good. I do get the feeling as well, like maybe the superstar recruiter who's just operationally amazing. Is it always because they're, the most process orientated? Maybe it is, but there's a lot of people that get by on just like the amazing, like vim and vigor, the charisma type person. That's amazing, guys, but perhaps that's not ideally probably not the optimal profile for someone who needs to be a bit more analytical, more process driven. Mark, how about your thoughts on the same question, career pathing into this function, and what kind of qualities make sense for it?
Yeah, I think Steve and Victoria have covered most of it. I would also say taking somebody from an operations background into the team that hasn't done recruitment before is also quite interesting because they have a completely different view and maybe operationally process driven really strong, and will look at a process differently to an ex-recruiter. And sometimes you need an external set of eyes. So if you've got more than one person in RecOps, I would say if you're implementing a RecOps team, it should be someone from recruitment. But if you've got a slightly bigger team, having somebody external is not necessarily a bad thing. And when it comes to the people I've got in my team at the moment, most of them have grown from coordinators into recruitment operations roles focused on either data or enablement or the process and the privacy side of things. The one person that's focused on the enablement was actually a very good recruiter, She's probably listening to this this live, actually. She's a very good recruiter, but self-professed not the strongest at process. And she would cut every corner she possibly could on our systems and on our tools. There she is. On our systems, on our tools to get the job done quickly. So she was an excellent recruiter, horrendous at process, and being in recruitment operations and understanding the downstream impact of those decisions that she used to make has turned her into such a strong recruitment operations professional that she can now go back to recruiters and understand, one, from their side, and two, the downstream impacts of what it is they're doing.
How interesting. I think you're right as well, because the incentives have changed, haven't they? I mean, when you're a recruiter, yeah, it's pretty easy how you judge. You judge on number of fills, basically. I mean, maybe there's a quality of hire, but if you're like literally hiring to the number that you've been taken, generally speaking, everyone's going to pat on your back and say, that's brilliant. So obviously you're going to be aligned to do that. And if some additional process or some additional thing is going to kind of put a bit of friction in your way to get to that point, you might regard that with some hostility and not actually be fully committed to it. Whereas shifting to a different role where you're looking at how we optimize across the piece, whether the optimization is in a longer time frame. So it's not just what the immediate sort of optimization is in the next 30 days, but what's it going to look like in 2 years? Because we've got to set it up in this way. Then suddenly, you might come to different decisions to the same situation. So yeah, fantastic. I'd love to get a cat on the show at some point. It'd be interesting to get how that psychology works in different places. Okay, excellent stuff. Let's move on to the AI aspect of it. I saw a job by one of these AI first companies. I forget who it was. Might have been Box or something. They said, "Yeah, we've got this AI operations lead." And I was like, "All right, what's all this about?" And it's like they're saying, you know what? You can't rely on AI optimization, implementation, etc., just to happen through circumstance. And for you to be ahead of the market. That's basically, you're going to be median to the market if you just let AI happen, like it's going to happen. But how do you get faster and beat the market? You actually need to have a specialist that is going there to basically automate workflows. And I just thought, wow, that's very similar to what a recruitment ops person does. Is the future transition of recruitment ops into an AI operations lead, like someone who's there to literally, it's never going to be apart from AI. AI is always going to be part of it. In which case, can the role expand beyond TA? Because suddenly you're looking at, automating a workflow. It doesn't have to be within TA. It could be in HR, most obviously, or any of the adjacent functions, or even further beyond that. What are your thoughts on this? AI operations lead, is that a future transformation for RecOps? Thoughts? Steve?
Yes, never say never. I think, could one of us transition into another function and bring value in terms of ops and setup and AI integrations? I believe yes. I think, though, for me, with my stance being that AI is an enabler and an enhancer, I think you still need an element of subject matter expertise in where you're trying to implement the systems, right? And I think if you're trying to implement AI into a function that you might not have as much knowledge in, you might make some mistakes that it could cause some backfires. So I think with the proper training, with the proper time, I think, yes, absolutely, all of us could learn how to do it. But I think AI is never going to replace the subject matter expertise based on specific companies, right? Because there's a generally best practice way to do things, and there's an internal, this is the way we have to do things to fit our company culture, to fit our company way of doing things, etc., etc. And maybe we'll get to the point where we can train AI to do all of those things. But for now, I think, I believe in the power of people controlling AI more than AI controlling people.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Thanks for not jumping on the bandwagon, Steve. We need exactly this type of yeah, absolutely. We need exactly this type of sort of mindset. Mark, your thoughts on this? Sort of going beyond the TA function. What's your vibe telling you on that?
My vibe's telling me there's more than enough to do in TA at the moment, so probably not right now. Yeah, thinking about it again, similar to Steve's answer, potentially yes, with the right kind of training in the right kind of environment, it could be a step. But I think that the subject matter expertise is so key with what we're doing at the moment, especially this early on in that kind of AI journey for companies.
Yeah, fair enough. How about you, Victoria?
Yeah, it's interesting. At face value, I was like 100% yes, but hearing Steve and Mark, I'm like, oh yeah, no, you're right about that. So I think, look, I think there's a balance. I think that I couldn't possibly imagine being anywhere else other than within HR. So for me, it's like a no. But could it be done? Yes, possibly. I think for me, I think that the the whole piece is actually, I think it will develop more across HR as to how we can be HR AI. When I look at conversations that I'm having with my colleagues in JLL, we're now talking about AI. Well, how do we now interact with the rewards team? How do we interact with the L&D team? So I think what we're starting to see is cross functions within HR, not outside of that parameter. So yes, I think that there is an AI ops lead title and role, but really to have that passion and to have that understanding of what's going on behind the scenes really is what makes it successful. Balance.
I think this early on as well, I think that could be kind of answered by having almost like a committee, right? So you have one person from the people team, you have one person from product, one person from engineering that all meet to discuss what automation they're introducing and how it's being done. And then the responsibilities sort of devolve to those departments rather than having one person solely responsible for all of it. So I think if a company's not quite ready to go that far down that route, I think that's a way around it, like an interim step even.
Yeah, really good. Folks, having a RecOps team sounds amazing, but it probably still is quite marginal to companies of a certain size. And the numbers of businesses that do have RecOps probably just in terms of overall percentage is into the single figures, I assume. So people listening in here, they're listening and think, and they don't have a RecOps function, specialist function. How do they sort of accelerate the use of AI adoption and utility within the TA team? Do they, for instance, bring in an external specialist? We're starting to see a mini sort of industry emerge now of ex-TA people who've kind of got themselves AI enabled, and maybe they can come in and fulfill that function. Do we see them do that? Is it a case that the head of function, the head of TA, has to step into that role more actively rather than second someone to do it? Like they've just got to get on with it and do it. Or is there any other option? Because let's say we don't want to just soldier on and hope it's going to work. We want to get faster than the rest of the market, for instance. What's your advice to companies that don't have a specialist function right now? How do they get the goodness from a RecOps function? Victoria, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I'm very aware of time, so I would say start small and demonstrate value. Use the people you've got, because I promise you'll be sitting on amazing people. But use the people, start small and demonstrate value, and focus on change management. Don't lose sight of change management.
Yeah, it could work. You've got to almost like, let's say, take someone off the job filling. But yeah, you do. And you as the leader have got to defend that decision. You can't just have you can't just say, right, do this as well as the headcount you're doing before anyway. That's just going to blow people, burn people out. As the leader, you've got to make that decision, take it away from operations, and then defend that decision. Mark, your thoughts on this? What should a sort of a TA function without RecOps function specialist do to accelerate AI adoption?
Yeah, I think definitely for smaller companies, head of TA should be kind of stepping into that role. And I think for companies slightly bigger than that, anyone that's looking to step into a lead role, doing this job, even if it's like half of their job, to prove the return, as Victoria was saying, it would put you in such a good position to then step into a head of TA role elsewhere. So I would say if you're not big enough or you've not got the budget to do it, I would find somebody internally that can do it, even if it's part-time, and measure the success from that.
Yeah, and when you think about what a team leader should be doing, or even a CEO, for instance, at the very senior level, you're there to optimize everyone else. That's the general idea. So this has got to be you. So if you're sitting there and you're not particularly AI fluent, you got to kind of think if you're a TA leader, you're not AI fluent. probably you need to rethink that because you got to get with it. Stephen, final word to you. What should a team do that doesn't have this particular function?
Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me. Be very specific with the problem that you're trying to solve. You know, there's an AI tool for everything, and AI can do everything. So be very specific with the problem you're trying to solve. Like Victoria said, start small. Don't risk everything by trying to automate everything. Start small. Use the teams that you have. You have good people doing what they do. The goal is optimization and progression, not necessarily catastrophic change. So I think immediate pain point, and then what are your metrics for success, and be realistic with that. You're not going to double your headcount or double your ability to hire overnight by introducing a TA tool. So think very carefully about how you're going to measure the success of anything that you do implement and how you could then iterate from there.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And we haven't even got to the part two of this this topic, which is what do we do with the excess time, folks? Let's say you are successful and you do sort of create increased productivity for the rest of the team. How are we going to spend the time? How do we repipe that into the other stuff that we in the people function need to get on with? Probably as a part two, really. So we're going to have to reconvene and get that on. But time is up. Let's say goodbye to our wonderful guests. Christine has had to bounce early as sun is calling. You know, it's like it's the heat wave. Off to get herself a tan. No, but Victoria, great to see you. We'd love to get you back. You have a very good weekend, my dear.
You.
Steve, great. Thanks for kicking us off on the show. Wonderful to see you here. And Mark, great to see you as well. Thank you so much for joining. I know you're meant to be on the paternity leave, so I really especially appreciate you stepping in. Enjoy the rest of your leave with your family, mate. And thanks for your contribution here.
See you soon.
Cool. Wasn't that fantastic, everyone? What a very interesting conversation. I think we definitely need part two. We always do with these conversations. 1 hour, clearly not long enough. So we're going to have to do that. Astrid, I can share Christine's LinkedIn. Let me just do that right now, as a matter of fact. Did I not do that earlier? I do beg your pardon. So here we go. I'll just share it right now. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Okay, we are out of here, folks. Enjoy the weekend. We are back next week. A lot of you are asking, oh, ChatGPT 5, AI agent, what's happening? Guess what? We're going to do that show next week on Friday because we're going to do basically at the minimum a quarterly update as to the state of AI and how it impacts TA. Reason why is obviously the innovation rate in artificial intelligence is cycling so fast. We can't just do a state of play once a year. I mean, we'd be so far behind the times. At minimum, we're going to do it quarterly. So the first the next one we're going to do is next week, which is perfectly timing. OpenAI's launched bunch of things. ChatGPT 5 today, and last couple of days, you might have seen some open source models released as well, which essentially means that you can download artificial intelligence onto your computer and work on it offline. Think about what that means. I mean, crazy stuff. So lots of really interesting innovations. I've got the panel actually experimenting with all of that stuff now, so that when they're going to come back and talk to us in a week's time, they'll be able to educate us on whether this works, yes or no. So make sure you sign up for that. The show is currently live. Follow the channel on Crowdcast if you want to get updated on that. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, follow my LinkedIn account, broadcast every Friday from that account as well. We also have a special as well next week on Wednesday, I think it is. We are speaking to none other than Jeff Taylor. Monster.com, folks, have been in the news. Very sad news for all of us old heads. We see Monster.com actually go dark in Europe, I think, due to a takeover and all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Jeff Taylor, of course, founded Monster way back when. He's going to come on and do a Founders Focus with us. We're going to be doing a deep dive as to what he's learned over 3 decades of entrepreneurship in the recruitment technology space. He's also launching a new product called Boom Band, which is a kind of a humanization of how we discover other human professionals. Going to be very interesting, but we're also going to obviously talk about what's happened at Monster as well and what lessons we can learn from that. So that event is live and ready for you to register as well. But again, if you follow my channel here on LinkedIn, on Crowdcast, you'll get notified when we go live. Okay, that's about it. Thanks for watching, everyone.